Imagine if the media, instead of constantly bombarding the collective human consciousness with stories of war and threats of World War III and the fear of World War III and the possibility of nuclear war right around the corner and complete annihilation and Russia's nukes and America has nukes and on and on and on. And instead of all of this, just imagine if the messaging was, on the other hand, world peace is right around the corner. Look at all these people who are working towards world peace. Look at all these stories of average Americans and Canadians and Mexicans and South Americans and Africans and Europeans and Asians and everyone across the planet who are helping to create peace on Earth. And peace on Earth is coming. Imagine if the stories that the media highlighted, instead of stories of war and death and fear, were stories of neighbor loving neighbor. Just imagine what a world that would be. How quickly would the world change if the collective human consciousness, instead of being constantly bombarded from morning to night with fear and death and threats of annihilation, was instead bombarded with thoughts of love and stories of hope, and a message of peace on Earth is coming, and it's almost here. Welcome to my channel, Stepping into Light. This is Jason, and today I want to talk about the prospects of World War III and the prospects of world peace. So, there's a lot of talk, obviously, of the prospects of World War III, and it makes sense from a logical standpoint. We've got, two major world conflicts, Ukraine and Russia, and of course in Israel, Palestine, and that whole Middle East region. And of lately, the U.S. has joined that war directly and is now bombing Yemen, the poorest Arab nation on this earth. We're bombing them. Why? Because Israel. In any event, it's saddening to see all of this war, but we must remember that, look back just last century, for example. We had World War I, we had World War II, we had Vietnam, we had the bloodiest century that we've had in a long while. We are nowhere near that level of bloodshed and war right now. We are in a state of world war, but it's nothing near the level of calamity that the wars of last century were. But if you only just watch the media, you get the idea that we're at the worst, most violent stage in the world history, and we're about to be annihilated by nuclear war. That we need to fight a war to stop nuclear war, right? Because war is always the answer to war. War brings peace, and no. See, I think humanity has to come to terms with the fact that war will never bring peace. Look at World War I. They called it the war to end all wars. Did it end all wars? No. World War II shortly thereafter followed. Then Vietnam. And then on and on. And the Gulf War, Kuwait and Iraq. And then the war on terror. Did that end terrorism? No, it didn't. Did the war on drugs end drug use? No, it did not. Perhaps the problem is anything you wage a war against, you increase it. You strengthen it. You become what you hate. What you resist persists. If we want peace, perhaps we simply have to choose peace. This novel idea, radical idea, I know, very radical. You're fighting a war against war will never eradicate war. Taking sides in any violent conflict will not end violence. Mother Teresa once said, "I will not attend an anti-war rally." but I will attend a pro-peace rally any day. You see, fighting against the darkness only increases the darkness. Every war has two sides warring against each other. And we're taught in our societal programming that we must pick a side. One side is good, one side is bad. And once the bad side is gone, then there can be peace. But you know, the other side thinks you're the bad guy. You think the other side's the bad guy. And from each of your perspectives, you're right. The only way the war can ever end is to stop believing this insanity that the only way there can be peace is through annihilating the other side, which is a part of ourselves, because we're all one human family, and we're never going to find peace by waging a war against ourselves. That's insanity. The world is a reflection of our inner world. The world outside of us is a reflection of our inner world. If there's war on the world stage, it is pointing to the fact that in the collective human consciousness, in enough of the collective human family, there is a war within us. The only way there is ever going to be world peace is if there is first we find peace within ourselves. How do we do that? We stop waging a war against the darkness within us. And I know from my own experience that when I fight my inner darkness, the darkness increases. Because the war inside ourselves is a part of that darkness. We have to become whole. That is the whole process of healing, individually and collectively, to become whole, to integrate all aspects that we have cast outside of ourselves. And in the outside world, on the world stage, what this means is we have to become unified. Those of us who have said, they're the bad ones, they're the bad ones, they're the outcasts, they're the ones that need to be destroyed. No. No one needs to be destroyed. There is no evil human that must be destroyed in order for there to be peace. There is only evil actions that need to be forgiven. That's what stands between us and the world peace that we seek. Our refusal to forgive. If the Israelis could forgive the Palestinian, the Hamas terrorists, if the Palestinian people who only want peace and freedom and justice and equality could forgive the oppressor, the occupier, the Israelis, if both sides could forgive each other, they could live in one land at peace. Maybe not under their current governments, which are controlled by the forces of darkness. But if the people took a stand for peace and refused to kill each other, the forces of darkness now controlling their various governments would collapse. And the same goes for any war. When the people decide they've had enough and they refuse to kill each other, there can be no war. There can only be war when there are people willing to kill each other. All we have to do to transcend the darkness, to eradicate the darkness, is simply turn on the light. Shine a light on the darkness, and the darkness will dissolve. Only the light of love will ever triumph over the darkness of fear and hatred. And this is what is behind every violent conflict. It's fear. Fear is the power of the ego, the mental programming that enslaves our minds. It is the power of the metaphorical devil, and it is the power of the quite literal demonic realm, which feeds off of bloodshed and suffering, human suffering. The forces of darkness of this world, both visible and invisible, feed off of our fear. They feed off of our suffering. They feed off of the bloodshed of war and sacrifice. And war is sacrifice. It is sacrificing our children and our brothers and our sisters. For what? So war can continue to line the pockets of the war profiteers. so that those entities which feed off of it, both visible and invisible, can continue to remain in power, enslaving humanity. But it starts long before it culminates in a violent conflict. It starts within our hearts. It starts with us hating our brothers. It starts with us thinking that because someone else has a different color skin than us, they are our enemy. Or because they're of the wrong religion, different religion, that they're evil. They're inherently evil and they must be wiped out. There can be no peace as long as there's the people in the wrong religion, and people with the wrong skin color, the wrong political beliefs, the wrong ideologies. This is insanity. Do you want peace like I do? Then make your top priority finding an inner state of peace. Stop picking sides. Those who are fighting the wars are perpetuating the wars. Those who are taking sides, those who are saying, I oppose the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people, therefore I support Hamas, they are perpetuating the war. They might say they want peace, but they are not choosing peace. Peace is a choice. Every day, every hour, every minute, every moment of the day, we choose peace or not peace. And if we choose that which is not peace, we are choosing war. There are prophecies people cling to. They say, oh, but there has to be a great war. There has to be a world war. There has to be the final war. And then peace comes. Prophecy is not written in stone, and the prophets themselves make this as clear as they possibly can. Why must there be war before peace comes? Well, there's only one reason there must be war before peace comes, which is to reflect back to us all of the wars within ourselves, the various inner wars and the lack of peace within us, so that we choose peace. But this war on the world stage does not need to get worse, does not need to evolve into all-out world war. No. All that needs to happen is for enough humans to see we don't want this. No, I do not support the kidnapping and murder of innocent civilians, even of soldiers, just because they've done so much wrong to my people. And I do not support the bombing of homes and civilian infrastructure, of children, of men and of women who are just like you and me. This is wrong, and nothing justifies it. Absolutely nothing justifies it. This has to end, but the only way it will ever end is if we take a stand for peace, and we stop choosing sides, and we start praying for peace. Because scientific studies, they're hard to prove, but they have demonstrated the power of prayer for peace. When enough people around the world pray for peace by feeling peace, by embodying the feeling of peace within themselves, by coming into a state of inner peace, and then focusing that peace out into the world around them. Violence in a conflict, when this is studied, when this is done on a large scale, thousands of people taking part around the entire world, doing this, praying for peace in this manner, at the same time, on the same day, in the same week, when there's a violent conflict. The violence on both sides of the conflict diminishes. This is how we end war. This is how we usher in peace. Entering into a state of inner peace, and then spreading that peace out into the world, as Jesus taught. Blessed are the peacemakers. Love your enemies, because in reality they're not actually our enemies. They're a part of our family. They're a part of the human family. Each and every one of us. And we must stop hating them in our hearts. We must stop fearing them, and we must stop feeding the fear and the hatred. The less we feed into the narrative, the less we think about, focus upon, feed the fear of World War III, the more we withdraw our mental and emotional energy from these narratives, the less chance there is that these scenarios will ever play out. So if you want peace like I do, I challenge you, stop focusing on the narratives, on the wars on the world stage, and focus on your own state of consciousness and the war within you, if there is one. And do whatever you have to do to find peace within yourself. This is the most powerful way, and truly the only way, that there will ever be peace on earth. What can you do in this moment, today, right now, to bring more peace to your world? That's how we're going to bring world peace upon this planet. Love is the only way. Love your enemy. Does not mean bomb your enemy. Does not mean kill your enemy. It does not mean kidnap and torture your enemy. Steal from your enemy. Loot your enemy's oil. Take their land. No, that is not what love is. Absolutely not. This is all the work of the forces of darkness acting upon this planet. This is all the work of the systems that have been built up based upon the fear programming of the ego within ourselves. And until we conquer that ego within ourselves, it will project itself upon the world stage in the systems we see. The Matrix, a system of control that feeds off of our life energy, feeds off of our fear, off of our hatred and our anger of one another, causing us to do violence to our own family in the name of peace. And yet, where does this path lead us? I think we can all see very clearly where this path leads, unchecked. World War III. Free yourselves from the mental programming of fear that controls your mind and would have you kill your own brothers and sisters in this beautiful human family that we are. Free yourselves from this matrix. It feeds off of us, our energy, our fear, our lives, our blood. Free yourselves and choose peace, not war, within yourself and in every action that you take. Unplug yourself from the matrix, from the programming, from the media's narratives. Stop feeding into it. We may not be able to control what the media blasts across our TV screens and our radios and our newspapers, but we can choose not to consume the fear and the hatred and the division that it sows within our consciousness. But when enough of us do this, those narratives, they lose all control. We get to rewrite the script any way we choose. And we do this with our actions, with our energy. We do this when we choose peace in every moment. We have all of the power. That power is in our choice, and it is our choice. Choose peace if you seek peace, and peace will come. Peace be with you. Until next time, this has been Jason.